Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I wanted to do a quick video to show you what phosphorus or potassium deficiencies could look like in your tomato plants. These are indoor seed starts. Tomatoes over here are all nice and healthy, nice and green, large leaves. The tomatoes here are suffering from either a potassium deficiency or a phosphorus deficiency. In either case, you're going to treat it the same way. You're going to give it a little bit more of a water-soluble fertilizer that has P and K, potassium and phosphorus in there. So what you want to look at is, first off, in a healthy tomato, nice and green, the leaves are large, you don't see any discoloring. On the undersides, these are pretty green. Let me just check the ones over here, because tomatoes can also have a purple underside. Let me get rid of that one. So these are some smaller plants, and if you look at the base is a little bit purple, a little purpling on the undersides. Purpling undersides of a tomato is okay. That's a healthy plant. There's nothing wrong with that tomato plant. When you start seeing purpling on the tops of the leaves, maybe some purple veining, let's put that in there. That's more of an issue of a phosphorus deficiency. When you see more yellowing and then kind of these green veins going through here, that's sclerosis. That's more of a phosphorus deficiency. Now, I had to pause as I'm talking about these, because very often it's hard to tell the difference between one or the other. Like here's some purple veining in there, but you also have some yellowing. The leaves look a little bit purple. It really doesn't matter. You're just looking for this coloration pattern, and you're knowing that the potassium and the phosphorus is just not enough for the tomato plant. So how do you address it? So I've been talking about using fish emulsion at a quarter strength, and fish emulsion sometimes is like a 5-1-1 NP and K. So when you cut it down by a quarter, you're really reducing that potassium and phosphorus down. So in this case, if you have a flat of tomato plants that are looking like this, I may go to the chemical fertilizers that are often at full strength, 1 tablespoon per gallon, like a 24, 12, 18 NP and K. And what I would do is I would use that at a quarter strength, really knock that back, give these plants 1 feeding of that. That's going to be a higher phosphorus and potassium, and that will give the plant the nutrients that it needs. Now you only have to do that once, and that will help the plant correct, and then you can just go back to sticking with your organic fertilizers if you want to. But when you see something like this, especially when like all my other starts are nice and healthy, and the way this actually happened is these were in a 6-pack cell, and for whatever reason the bottoms got crushed, so they were absorbing water, but sometimes when I put in the fertilizer I used less, so they weren't getting the nutrient dose that the rest of the plants were getting, so they turned out looking like this. So I've corrected that problem, put them into new containers. I fed them the higher fertilizer with potassium and phosphorus just to these plants. Also, you don't have to do all of your plants. You can top water at this point just to give the plants what they need. So now that everything's fixed up, I'm just going to let them sit, let them do their thing with the rest of the plants, because these guys were growing right next to them, so they look good. So in retrospect too, you want to make sure that your soil mix is going all the way down to the bottom. One, so that it can pull up the water. And when I water, sometimes I water my tray a little bit deeper so everything gets water. And then sometimes when I'm mixing up my fertilizers, maybe I didn't put enough into the tray, so the problematic tomato plants, the soil sat above that line. Everything else absorbed those nutrients, but this guy just wasn't getting the nutrients that it should have, and they turned out looking just like this. Hope that makes sense. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please follow me. I'll be taking these outside soon. I'm actually in the middle today of doing a full tomato video from seeding to all the way transplanting them outside, so that will be coming out soon. But I wanted to just show you what a phosphorus potassium deficiency can look like in your tomato plants. And I want to stress the point of just top watering with fertilizer in it the problematic plants, because if you look up here at the rest of my seed starts, they're all nice and green. So those 3 tomato plants, again, because I had the bottom of the tray crunched, just weren't pulling in the nutrients that they needed. They were getting enough nitrogen because the nitrogen was in a higher concentration of the fish emulsion. They weren't getting enough of the potassium and phosphorus because that was at a much lower dose. So you don't have to dose all of these with more phosphorus and potassium. You can just dose the sickly plants. If I wasn't giving them enough phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium from the beginning, like my water-soluble mix was just too low, all of these plants would be suffering. That's how I knew it was just something with these specific tomato plants. If you notice that, then when you water your plants, you water them with that higher concentration of potassium and phosphorus, and kind of just stick with that slow and low with the slight bump up in the phosphorus and potassium, and that will take care of your plants. Don't overdo it. These plants are going to be okay. They'll correct with time, and they'll be just as strong as the plants over there. Thanks for watching.